Right. I, Mayor Matt Girding, call the March 2nd, 2026 City Council meeting for the City of Somersworth to order. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor McNair,
Here.
Vincent,
Excused.
Gibson,
Excused.
Parity Catanzaro,
Here.
Michaud,
Yeah.
Witham,
Here.
Austin,
Here.
Cameron,
Here.
Barry.
Here.
Right. Councilor Barry, will you now lead the council in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the recognition of our Indigenous people, our Native ancestral Americans. This meeting takes place on Indokina, which is the unceded traditional ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Pennacook, and Wabanaki peoples past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land, waterways, living beings, and the Alnabak, the people who have stewarded Indokina throughout the generations. Item 4 on the agenda are presentations. Tonight we have a presentation from Rad Nichols, who is the Executive Director of Coast, regarding our transportation update, as well as some information about Coast's FY 2027 budget request. I'll turn it over to the City Manager if he has any more to add. Otherwise, we'll then look towards Rad for his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, we're entering into the budget season, and there's a number of dates that I'll review in my city manager report for a budget schedule. One of them, the 30th, is related to City Council budget workshop and community support agencies, that being a Monday night and a weeknight. We thought it would be a good use of time to ask Rad Nichols to come in outside of that period of time, knowing that typically in the presentations to the council, that's where a significant amount of the discussion and time is spent talking about that relatively large portion of the community support budget. So he is here this evening in order to do that. And Rad, thank you, and take it away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I am Rad Nichols. I'm the Executive Director at Coast. Great to be here tonight. Happy to answer any questions you might have. We are your nonprofit public transit system. Last year, we carried just over 411,000 passengers, about 95% of where we were pre-COVID. We are not the same system as we were pre-COVID. We run less service than we did back then. And the really exciting thing is in the last 2 years, we've seen ridership increase by 41%. So really nice gains in the last 2 years. Our passengers traveled an estimated 2.7 million miles on our vehicles last year. We estimate our annual regional impact, economic impact at just over $33 million this year. There's a return of just over $4 for every $1 invested in our operations at Coast, per a Stratford and Rockingham Planning Commission study commissioned back in 2021. The services we offer here in Somersworth are on our Route 1, which runs the High Street corridor and through downtown to Berwick from Dover and then back, as well as Route 12, which connects Rochester to Somersworth and Dover, and then continues on as the Route 13 beyond down to Portsmouth. We had just over 55, and then the other service we offer in the community is our ADA paratransit services for older adults and individuals with disabilities who can't otherwise use our fixed route services because of their disability. We had just over 55,000 riders board in Somersworth last year. That was up 18% over the year previous. We sent out our municipal requests in early February. Don't remember the exact date now. I have it here, but February 11th. You saw that letter that's in your package. Our request went up to just over $255,000 for the city of Somersworth. That was about a 15.7% increase, 34,000 and change over last year. You also saw in the packet an attempt to explain why our increases for our communities are going up faster than inflation. It's related to less federal funding that's available to us to sustain our operation. And we are trying to diversify our revenue streams, knowing what is going on at the federal level, but that takes time. And one of the ways that we can help cover that gap is through greater support from our local communities. And that's what we've been asking for. The really nice thing is if we compare our costs per hour or per passenger against inflation, you saw what that was, and our costs are actually declining per unit of service versus inflation, which is obviously increasing. So with that, and knowing you have the materials that I had sent earlier to David, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions or comments from the council? Councillor Aston?
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate that. This question may not have an answer, and it may not matter all that much, but I'm just curious. You talked about ridership up in Somersworth.
Yes.
Do we have any way to know whether that's more people, or is it more rides by the same number of people?
We do not track our ridership that way. We do a survey of our riders every 2 years to collect all sorts of information, but it's not something that gets into that level of detail, nor is it frequent enough to be able to tell you the answer to that. I will say that our drivers are reporting new faces, but I can't quantify that. Sorry.
Thank you.
Other councillor questions or comment? Yeah, Councillor Gibson?
Yeah, just one quick question. Rough numbers, based on the ridership, you're asking for basically a $5 per person subsidy from the city.
Mm-hmm.
The fee you charge to individual riders, I don't know off the top of my head, was $2.
$1.50.
$1.50.
Yep.
So we're paying out basically $4.50 per rider. I'm sorry, $3.50 per rider, which means we're subsidizing 3 times the amount that the riders are being charged.
We are looking at the fares we charge our riders, and I suspect that we will have we discussed this at our last 2 board meetings ago now, in January, late January. We are likely headed in the direction of a fare increase. I would suspect it'll probably go up to the neighborhood of $2. We do offer free transfers so that, for example, if you live in Somersworth and you need to go to Portsmouth or Rochester, you could transfer for free and ride for $2 to get to either of those points. But yes, there is a subsidy involved. That's public transit.
I understand that. It's just that, and I support public transit, but the economics of it are hard to reconcile. That basically the general population of the city is paying out a substantial overage versus what the riders are contributing to the operation of the coast bus system. And I realize that it's a public good to have the coast public system, but at the same time, the subsidy that we pay out to coast impacts the taxpayers in the city of Somersworth across the board. And since I saw the numbers in the original presentation, I've been trying to reconcile that in my head, and I have a hard time with it. particularly since the taxpayers in the city have been hammered and are looking at substantial increases based on other needs, whether it be the insurance costs that the school district are being asked to shoulder, or other things that are being downshifted from the state to us. And I know that probably amongst this group, that's not a popular position, but I feel as a representative of the city that I have to seriously consider that impact to the ratepayers in the city.
I can understand your concern. I think those are valid concerns. What I can tell you is that at Coast we work to provide a very efficient service, and we watch our costs. Our costs, it is not inexpensive to provide public transit service and do it right. So
I understand that.
yeah.
All right, thank you. Councilor McNair, and then Parity Catanzaro, and Barry.
My button wasn't working. That was almost tragic. Thank you, Rad, for coming and providing us with this very detailed report. I'm looking at the different funding formulas, and I was wondering, I may have missed it. It shows some federal dollars, contributions, and I know that you've spoken in front of the state before. My personal belief is that the state should be paying a much larger percentage of public transportation, like in every state.
We are in agreement on that.
But just like with the education, they do not. And that's a conversation for another time. However, were you able to secure some additional funding, or what was your state request look like? Just out of curiosity.
We asked for $6.8 million over the biennium, so $3.4 million a year. We were able to secure $1.5 million a year, $3 million total over the biennium, which was an increase of about $750,000 over the previous biennium. Unfortunately, the previous biennium, a lot of the funding was backloaded, so we went from 2.28 million in, was that 25 to 1.5. So it, there was an overall decrease.
A net loss,
There's
really, yeah.
Well, a net gain over the 2 years, but the first year was a loss.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, I'm, I don't have much to add in terms of, obviously, this is a service we must provide for our folks, and it's really important that we ensure that we can do it. I did notice too, though, and I may have, like I said, I'm not a math person. Math was not my strong suit. Apparently English, not either. But today, apparently English seems to be a struggle. But I was noticing that the ridership versus the percentage of the FY27 budget is pretty evenly spanned across all the municipalities. So like Rochester, their percent of ridership is 16.8, and they're at 18% of the budget. The only one I noticed that was actually less than their ridership was, or their percentage of the budget was less than their ridership was Portsmouth. Can you shed some light on that?
I can look into that. I don't have an answer right off the top of my head.
That's fine. I don't expect that you would.
They did have the when we adjusted services last fall, they had the largest. They took the brunt of that.
Yes. Then I'm sure, like, I feel like this looks like an evenly proportioned percentage. I just happened to notice that everyone else's numbers were higher on the one column than the other, except for Portsmouth, and that was just a matter of curiosity. So
Yep.
I'd be interested to hear about that, because I'm sure I'm not looking at the big picture as you of course would.
They are the largest single contributor from a municipal standpoint when you
Right.
when you factor in their the contribution for senior transportation as well.
Sure.
They're I think over 800,000 for the year.
Right.
If I remember
Okay.
correctly.
And that makes sense. Like, I'm looking at just this one graph, and you kind of understand the entire picture. So, I trust that you know what you're talking about. All right, that's really all I had. Thank you again for giving us all of this great information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Party Catanzaro, you are next.
Thank you. Hi, Red. I wanted to dig a little bit into that return on investment that you talked about, that $4 back that we get from our $1 into it. Can you talk about that and what are we getting back?
So that's a study that Stratford Regional and Rockingham Planning Commission both did back in 2001. It looked at our 2019 budget. It looked at the direct, indirect, and induced effects of spending, of our spending on the regional economy, as well as the value of access that we provide for our customers. They used a known model to calibrate those benefits, and we have a executive summary as well as the full report available on our website if people wanted to really dive in. But that is fairly consistent with what you see from national associations and their assessment of the impact of public transit on the regional economy. So, and you know, that's the wages we pay our employees going back into the local economy. That's us working with vendors that are local and regional, so on and so forth.
Yeah, thank you. We know from hearing from our constituents, and particularly, was it just last year? We had that conversation about how there was a decrease in service that you had to make across several different routes. And we heard from people that it's how they get to their jobs, which is really important. It's how they get, you mentioned the ADA ridership to their like medical appointments and things like that. And that ADA piece, which ends up being more expensive, is that actually, I know there's a federal requirement connected
Yes.
with that. Can you describe that?
Yeah, so that's when the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed. Any public transit provider that offers fixed route public transit service, so your traditional scheduled fixed route bus service like Route 1, you have to have a paratransit service that complements it, runs the same days, same hours, and is available to anybody who, because of their disability, couldn't use that fixed route bus. It is the largest sort of cost center in our operations. It's close to 25% of our budget to provide somewhere around 26 to 28,000 rides a year of our 411,000. So, and that's really because they're for the most part one-off trips, because they're unique, going from unique origins to unique destinations. We carry about just under 2 people per revenue hour on that service. The fixed route buses are up in the 12 persons per revenue hour range. So, and I will say the services here in your community are some of our most well utilized in terms of passengers per revenue hour, whether that's Route 1 or Route 12.
Yeah, thank you. So as I think about this, going into budget season, I think that, the concerns that were expressed could be applied to every single line item. What I think is really clear to me is that, just like education, just like public water, just like paving our roads, there's a certain amount of investment we have to make so that, as you described, the people who need it the most, who otherwise would not have any way to get it, are benefiting. And I think it's such a clear line of that, to me, of the return on the investment. And I know the budget's tough every year and you have to go to each town. My last question is just around fundraising. We were talking at our last meeting about some fun ways to like get the community behind the library and these other things that are hard to fund with municipal funding. Can you talk a little bit about what private fundraising or campaign fundraising you're involved with?
So we have hired our first director of development in our organization's history. To date, we've largely been able to run the operation through federal government, state contribution, and municipal contributions. The federal government's become less reliable. We're trying to fill that hole with private philanthropy. And at the moment, we're really focused on our capital campaign for our new facility. We desperately need to replace the facility we're in. But then we will very quickly transition to focusing solely on our operating budget, our annual operating budget. The nice thing is a capital campaign helps you build the network for your ongoing operating campaign. So we're in the midst of that. Really excited with the staff member we were able to bring on. She was formerly at Crossroads House as their director of development, and she brings an expertise that I think we're incredibly lucky to have obtained.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Councillor Barry, you were next, and then Councillor Witham.
I remember last year there were decreases to routes. I don't remember the specifics of it, and if you don't have those, that's fine. But do we have any idea like how much that affected our citizens specifically? Because what I'm also kind of leading into here is if we can't get the full ask and different things, like what is the thought process? Is it more routes cut? Is it more different things? Like are you already anticipating some of what will have to happen if you cannot meet what you're asking for from all the communities?
So we cut routes and runs on services that were the least productive. So we had whole routes that we cut. Those were primarily down in the Portsmouth area. And then we had runs on certain services that we cut. The nice thing about what we saw was we expected, or those added up to around 5% of our ridership, the routes and runs that we cut. If we didn't have so many snow days this winter, we would see far less than 5% impact on our overall ridership. But because we've had so many snow days, we've seen around 5% decrease in ridership overall. But I expect that will change as we see the better weather come. Because our average weekday ridership is actually quite a bit higher than it was last year to date. So that's a really good sign. We are still using more federal funding on an annual basis than is being allocated to us every year. So unless we are able to find new revenue sources, we will likely have to continue with some sorts of service cuts. We're trying to avoid those, but there is a possibility that those will continue. And unfortunately, at this point, there's not a lot of flesh before we get to the bone. So, but it is a possibility that is something we'll have to face.
Right. Unfortunately, right? Like, we don't want to see that. It was nice to hear the how much it kind of affected the riders and different things, because I remember those routes being cut. And
Yes, and sorry, so Somersworth, there was no impact on service on Route 1
okay,
as a result of
I was
the-
gonna say I don't remember any being in Somersworth, but it was like a Somersworth resident getting to like a Portsmouth
Yeah.
or I believe the Shipyard. I think remember standing out a little bit. Like, we do have residents who obviously go there, so
Yep.
I was just curious. And again, I understand like we're one piece of a very large puzzle, so we might not have those numbers.
Yeah,
so.
you Route 100, which did go to the Shipyard, was eliminated. There were some Somersworth residents. The overall ridership numbers on that route were very low. And quite a bit came from Maine. Route 12 runs the Route 108 corridor. That does shut down earlier in the evening now than it used to. So there's potentially some impacts to Somersworth residents there. I can't tell you specific numbers, though.
No worries. All right. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, I think you kind of touched on the point where like we've already done some of these cuts, and it's one of those like now we're going to start impacting a lot more people the more cuts, because
Yep.
we're no longer at very least impactful. So thank you.
Thanks. Councilor Witham?
The snow days, you can see Director Babinski on your way out, see what he can do about that.
Yeah.
I've been asking him a couple of months now, and it seems to be falling on deaf ears. But in all seriousness, and I'm only going to use your presentation here tonight, Rad, and thank you for being here, to just talk about whatever it is we need to fund in a municipal budget. We're talking specifically here about public transportation. We could plug in public education. We could plug in public safety. We could plug in public works. We could plug in any number of things that we deliver as a political subdivision here in New Hampshire. We are not a business, right? There are some that would liken us to business and want us to follow a business model. We're not that. We're not a business, because we provide these services, many of which the taxpayers in the community will never, ever use. Most of our residents in Somersworth will never use public transportation, right? Many of our residents will not use our public education system. Many of our residents, hopefully, will never have to use our public safety system. Probably the one that our residents use the most is our public works, our roads and infrastructure that way, right? And then we have our water and sewer utilities, which are separately funded. But we provide a service that the greater good supports for those that need it, right? That's not a good business model at the end of the day. It's a terrible business model. That's why we're not a business, and we can't operate like one, because we're not one. At the end of the day, it's up to elected officials to make decisions on how we can best balance all of these things that we want our community to have and their ability to pay for it.
Yep.
And there is no formula. There is no good math, Councilor McNair. There is simply an ability to do things because we have a will. We have a desire. And some communities have a greater will and desire than others. And I'd like to say that Somersworth has a greater will and desire than some others. And that's a good thing. But it doesn't mean we can have reckless abandon with how we spend our taxpayer dollars. It's more of an art than it is a science at the end of the day. It really is. So all of these entities, public education, public safety, public works, public library, public transportation, are all vying for a piece of the pie. And every year that pie is the same damn size, right? Doesn't get bigger, right? Same size, and we're all vying. How do we make that best work, right? And that's the challenge that's in front of us. And I'm hopeful we can meet the challenge. But those are the debates that we'll have in the coming month or two. So thanks for bearing with me.
Yeah. Thank you for bearing with us. I'm trying to diversify our revenue streams so that there is not so much pressure on the communities. We have a pretty diverse revenue stream for a public transit system in New Hampshire, but it's not where you or I want it to be. So I'd like to be able to take more pressure off of local communities. I'd love for the state to help with that. That argument has been a nearly 30-year argument for me. So we're looking at other avenues as well.
Other questions or comments from counselors? All right, I have one, if that's okay. So you sparked my interest when you were talking, or Councilor Parity Catzera, you were questioning about the ADA services that you were providing. You had mentioned that they were like 25% of your budget. Is that right?
Correct.
And you had mentioned that these are things that are federally required. My question is what percent of your budget is federal money, and does that match the federal requirements for ADA that you're providing? I guess where I'm wondering is the federal government doing their fair share to do at least one piece of mandated transportation that you have on your plate, and do those things pair up?
They will tell you that they do.
Of course.
Anybody in our industry will say they don't. And it's been that way from day one. It was an unfunded mandate on us. We did not see our funding increase when that mandate went into place. Our funding has not kept up with inflation for the most part. So overall, I think the federal funding is around 54% of our budget. No.
Of what even is allocated is 53%, or of what you use? Because I know you
Of what
have
we use.
Of what you
Of
use.
what we use.
Oh.
We're
Okay.
right. If it was what we were allocated, it'd be a much smaller percentage.
Which is what I feared as well.
Yep. Yeah, we're using about $1.3 million more than's allocated every year. We get about $2.3 million a year.
Gotcha.
So that we have a $1.3 million, $1.5 million problem we have to solve.
Sorry to hear. Well, I appreciate it. If there are no further questions, I really want to thank you for being here, for taking your time to come to us tonight and talk about the importance of this. And we will certainly keep it all under consideration as we move forward with our budgetary process over the next month and a half or so. So thank you.
I'm always available, so just ask.
Absolutely. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. That is all we have for presentations tonight. Brings us to item 5 on our agenda, which is scheduled public hearings. We have one public hearing tonight. I will open the public hearing for Ordinance 7-26, which is to create Ordinance Chapter 35, which is our new schedule of fees. Is there anyone who wishes to speak towards Ordinance 7-26 this evening? All right. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on Ordinance 7-26. Next up is item 6, which is comments by visitors. Somersworth City Council and Mayor's Office welcome all visitors and encourage you to voice your opinions and views at council meetings. In accordance with Council Rules 7-C, a time limit of 5 minutes per person shall be in effect unless the council wishes to suspend the rules. Speakers shall not enter into a debate with the mayor, council members, city manager, or department heads. Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening? All right. Seeing none, we will move on. Brings us to item 7, which is approval of the consent calendar. The chair will obtain a motion to approve the consent calendar, which includes the minutes of the regular city council meeting held on February 17th, 2026. Do I have a motion? Councilor Austin?
I'll move that we accept the consent calendar as presented.
Councilor Austin moves to accept the consent calendar as presented, seconded by Councilor Cameron. Question for the council is on the adoption of the consent calendar. If you're in favor of the motion, you'll state by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying nay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes have it. Consent calendar is adopted. Item 8 on the agenda is our acceptance of written communications, petitions, or donations. We have none this evening. Brings us to item 9 on the which is the mayor's report. The public education landscape in Somersworth and the state of New Hampshire, and I think nationally, is dramatically changing. I think we are all well aware of this and have talked about this at length. National, state, and local policy decisions and priorities have limited funding for public education, while school privatization efforts, changing demographics, and political polarization have created almost a fractured and varied approach to how best to serve our students. It has certainly become apparent that we here in Somersworth need to identify for ourselves what our own Somersworth approach is in order to enhance our schools and help make sure our students are as successful as possible. Our schools here in Somersworth are full of exceptional educators. They offer quality educations to all of our kids. We're also leaders, I find, in special education, which we should be very proud of. And we successfully foster strong community connections between our schools and our many different unique community diverse aspects that we have. Because we do have, I love to tout, one of the most diverse populations in the state of New Hampshire. These strengths should be preserved and I think enhanced. However, as student populations continue to shift and funding becomes more limited and political and educational trends can fluctuate, we are faced with immense challenges that do threaten the foundation of public education in Somersworth. Somersworth School Board and district staff have already done a phenomenal job implementing strategic district improvement efforts, which include our Hilltop Promise, the Hilltop Progress efforts, and the Hilltop Strategic Priorities and Plans. However, a task force dedicated to developing, a bolder set of plans, certainly parallel to the strategic work that's already being done, I believe is needed and necessary. We must think as a city kind of outside the box in order to meet these various challenges head on and to preserve our community's characteristics and to promote and advance the educational excellence of our school district. With all of this in mind, I'm very excited tonight to announce a creation of the community, or a community design team, which is spearheaded by efforts of the Somersworth School Board and conversations that were held here at City Council with the superintendent not that long ago. And this community design team will lead the charge in envisioning the future of our schools. So this new mayoral commission, which will be named the Mayor's Commission on Reimagining and Redesigning the Somersworth School System, will work to do the following. We will work to reevaluate, reimagine, and redesign the Somersworth school system for students all the way from pre-K to high school graduation. We will work to be mindful of the fiscal realities that we live within and the budgetary constraints that we are held to. We will work to think creatively to further enhance our own kind of Somersworth identity and to find a way to redesign our public schools by supporting community-rooted solutions and local systems of support. We'll work to recommend a responsive and diverse set of solutions to reimagine what our school system could be while still preserving what makes us special here in Somersworth. We will work to operate concurrently and in parallel with the Somersworth School District's ongoing strategic district improvement efforts. And while parallel to this improvement work, the committee will look at developing more drastic and creative redesign restructuring efforts as necessary. And lastly, the committee will work to identify key changes on an aggressive timeline with the preliminary stages of work beginning now, after this is announced, obviously, through the early fall, with a second phase of work from the fall of 2026 into spring of 2027, with the hope that proposals for consideration can come before the council, the community, and the school board within the next 15 months. So, with that charge and with those tasks ahead of them, I'm happy to appoint the following members to the Mayor's Commission on Reimagining and Redesigning the Somersworth School System. So the chair will be our Superintendent, John Shea. The mayor, myself, will serve as vice chair. We will have 3 school board members who will be chosen and appointed by the school board, one of whom will be selected as alternative vice chair and will serve beside me as vice chair. We'll have city councilors Don Austin and Crystal Parity-Catanzaro serve. We'll have the assistant superintendent serve as well. And then we will have 3 school or staff leaders that will be chosen and appointed by the superintendent himself. And then we have community members, the first of which I would like to announce this evening will be Maureen Jackman will be joining us, though I'm open and looking forward to inviting other community members to join. And lastly, we will have representatives from Somersworth Ready Together, who will be chosen and selected by the organization themselves to attend and represent the organization. So I'm quite excited about this. There's a lot of work to be done. It's a very quick timeline, but I think the potential exists for some really innovative and exciting things to come out of this. And I'm really, really encourage those who are chosen to participate to dig in deep and collaborate, work together well to hopefully come up with some great solutions to some of the problems that we face. So thank you. Also this evening, I want to update the city about our schedule related to the city budget. Over the next month, the city will be engaging in its annual budget process, as we are hopefully all well aware. And as always, I encourage everyone to stay engaged and follow the process as we work our way through it. A number of important dates that we should all be keeping in mind. I'm just going to list them out and talk a bit about what we'll be doing at those dates. But the first is our Monday, March 16th date at 6 p.m. that night. We'll have a city council workshop, which will be an overview of the city manager's budget. Later that evening, March 16th at 7 p.m., the budget ordinance will be introduced on our agenda. And again, as is tradition, we typically hold the first reading and then table it, I believe. Or I think we do a second reading as well, then table. Yeah, second, then table. Thank you. Then on Thursday, March 19th at 6 p.m., we'll have another City Council budget workshop. This time it will focus specifically on the municipal operations and capital sections of the budget, so we will not discuss the school sections at that time. Tuesday, March 24th at 6 p.m., there will be a joint workshop between the City Council and the school board, at which we will then discuss the school section of the budget. On Monday, March 30th at 6 p.m., there will be a City Council budget workshop where we will go over the community support agencies and look for information about the proposals that those agencies have before us. Then on Monday, April 6th at 7 p.m., we'll have our regular City Council meeting where the city manager and the superintendent will then present the budget publicly to the city. At that time, it is possible that the budget could be adopted. And if not adopted that night, it would be my hope that on Monday, April 20th, which is the next meeting in April, at our regular City Council meeting at 7 p.m., the budget would be discussed and adopted if it has not already at that time. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about this process, about the various kind of meetings that will be held related to the budget. Certainly, as always, as we begin to kind of dive in, it's important that citizens communicate any of their wishes or concerns to us here, so city council or your city councilors or myself. Certainly in person is fine, a phone call is fine, electronic communication is fine. All this contact information is available on our Somersworth City website, so feel free to look it up there. I'm not about to list everyone's phone number on live TV, though I have listed mine before. But I do encourage everyone to reach out if you have questions, concerns, comments, things you would like to see. Again, this is, as we always say, our opportunity to kind of discuss what we feel is best for our community, and now's your time to share that with your city councilors and myself. So I encourage everyone to lead in this budget process with a bit of excitement, to kind of think about the opportunities that exist and hopefully have a bit of optimism as we move into what often is characterized as a difficult time of year. But I think there's still a lot of possibility and excitement that can come from a brand new city budget. So with that, this concludes my mayor's report. Thank you. Brings us to item 10, which is the city manager's report. City Manager Moore, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say that I'm very happy to see the ordinance schedule of fees progressing through hopefully second reading and the vote this evening. If you have any questions about how that process will work, I hope you reach out to me for your discussion. But we are working very hard to prepare as if this is adopted, so that we can hit the ground running with this budget process and have that new process show its value, hopefully. So I thank you for your support in that. I also want to point out under the city manager items requiring action, the authorization to accept the lead service line grant. We have been awarded a $60,000 grant from NHDES for the lead service line inventory program. The council is well aware of the responsibilities of the city with regard to following up on this EPA requirement. And this additional funding has become available that we have been awarded. It's important to note that the eligible uses for these monies could be for hiring consultants to do the work of identifying the resources, or spending other money on or satisfying other costs, soft costs associated with preparing for that work. Our staff has done that work for us and very well. So this $60,000 we're going to be able to use ahead of the money that we would need to borrow and actually do the work on the 5 streets that we're going to be working in this spring and summer for our usual annual paving program. So getting the money right to work and on a grant basis, a great thing to be able to say. Under informational items for me, aside from the budget schedule, which the mayor covered, is to remind the council that the staff continues to work on the SmartGov implementation. This has been a very significant effort at introducing software solutions to streamline permitting, and it's used in successfully many communities. We are well in our preparations for rolling that out here in Somersworth, thanks to the Division of Economic Development and Planning. We are projecting a go-live launch date for the spring of 2026. There'll be more outreach to the community as well as training for the staff that will happen ahead of time. But it is a significant milestone and a significant amount of work that allows us to get to this point, and we look forward to wrapping it up and delivering it for the community. Mr. Mayor, that would conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, brings us to item 11 on our agenda. This is reports of standing committees, special committees, and city officers. First up, we have the Finance Committee. Chair Witham.
Yes, thank you. Last meeting of the Finance Committee was on February 18th. Sole agenda item being a discussion of the current fiscal year school budget. I think as counselors and many in the public know, the school department was levied a special assessment by School Care. School Care is the health insurer for the City of Somersworth School Department. The special assessment is a authorized tool that School Care has in their agreement with the Somersworth School Department to cover unanticipated costs that may arise during a given coverage year. That was a significant bill that was levied on the city, a mid-budget stream. We have an amount of some $448,000 that remains to be paid as part of this special assessment. As council knows, we have a resolution that we passed, I believe unanimously, to look at how we might cover this cost. And one of the primary ways to chip away at this was to utilize savings from the existing fiscal year budget in the school department, and perhaps even from the city side of the budget to fund what is now $448,000. Part of that resolution to ask for the Finance Committee to routinely check in with the school department in this meeting was for that purpose. The Superintendent of Schools, John Shea, and the Business Administrator, Katie Kraus, were in attendance, and they provided an update As of the meeting on February 18th, we're looking at about $30,000 left as a projection of money left in the current fiscal year budget of the school department. That is a very fluid number. It could go up, it could go down. There are a number of cost centers in the school department budget which are quite fluid. One of them is paraeducators. We actually had a discussion about that. There are currently, or at least as of February 18th, there were 5 special paraeducator positions that were vacant in the school department budget, which accounts to about $93,000. But because these are required positions, the school department must continue to advertise and try to fill those positions. So that $93,000 is not yet, if you will, available. It may become available near the end of the year. They are using that to supplant added cost in that paraeducator line. So again, that's just an example of one of the areas that we talked about in some detail. Another area that we talked about, which is a concern to the school department, is their food service school lunch line of the budget. As is typical for almost every school district in the state, they do not run in the black here. They often run in the red, and there is currently a negative balance in that line. Basically, people not paying their school lunch bill, or importantly, not applying for free and reduced lunch. We can get money for free and reduced lunch if people apply for that, but for a variety of reasons that I don't need to go into here tonight, they do not. So that leads us down this path of a negative balance in many instances. So that's a cost center that they need to cover as well. So we will continue to stay connected with the school department between now and the end of the fiscal year, just to try to keep our pulse on this. It seems rather clear that we're not going to achieve $448,000 in savings in the current budget, to which we had a discussion about how would this then ultimately get funded. And the city manager and the finance director encouraged us to deal with that through the budget process that will be in front of us starting at our next meeting. And there are any number of ways that we could tackle that. Right now, the school department, as part of their tax cap compliant budget, because this is a requirement to be paid, is budgeting for that in their budget. But it is it's almost $500,000 of their budget to cover that cost center. So that was the gist of the meeting. There was a lot of discussion around all of those items, but that was generally where things stood. We did have a couple of miscellaneous items, but none of which warrant us reporting out here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Brings us to Government Operations Committee.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, yes, go
could
ahead.
I ask a question?
Sure, if it pertains to the report, absolutely.
When is our payment due to?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it is due July 18th or something like that. But
July 15th.
15th.
So 2 weeks into the next fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you.
I was off by 3 days. Not bad, off the top of my head.
What does that call it? Error. There's a margin of error. I was like, there's a margin of error there. All right, Government Operations Committee, Chair Mishu.
And no report this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next, Economic Development Committee, Chair Parity Catanzaro.
No report, but I do need to schedule a meeting, so I'm hoping to reach out to Hannah tomorrow to do that.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks. Public Safety Committee, Councilor Vincent's out, so Vice Chair Parity Catanzaro. Have you had a meeting?
I'm sorry, which was that?
Public Safety.
No report.
Thank you. Public Works and the Environment Committee, Chair Witham.
5 p.m. this Thursday here in City Hall.
Thank you. And Recreation Committee, Chair Cameron. No report, Your Honor. Right, thank you. Are there any reports of special committees this evening? Yes, Councilor Berry.
The HDC met last week. There was one passed application for a shed, and one was tabled for some new windows, doors, and other things on a project that was tabled so they could come back with other designs.
Great. Thank you. Other special committees? Okay, seeing none. Any reports of city officers? Seeing none. All right. Next on the agenda is nominations, appointments, and elections. Under nominations, appointments, and elections, in accordance with Council Rule 17 appointments, the following nominees are up for a council confirmation vote this evening. We have one nominee. The nominee is Lori Stein for appointment as an alternate member of the Historic District Commission for a term of 3 years. What are the wishes of the council? Councilor Perry Canzero?
I move for the acceptance of this nomination.
Thank you. Councilor Perry Canzero makes a motion to accept Lori Stein for appointment as an alternate member to the Historic District Commission for a term of 3 years. Seconded by Councilor Barry. The motion for the council is to appoint Lori Stein for appointment as an alternate member to the HDC for a term of 3 years. Discussion. Councilor Barry?
I was extremely excited to see this application. I was just going through pages and pages of history. I know she has a art history degree that correlates a lot. I don't know if a lot of people understand that a lot of historic preservation correlates in that same realm of preserving history. There's a lot of stuff that overlaps there, so I was very excited about this nomination.
Other discussion? Councilor Perry Canzero?
Yeah, similarly, I was really happy to see the specific professional experience here. I know when Councilor Goodwin was with us, he encouraged us to even consider in the future making that like a priority seat for somebody with that experience. So if she was up for a regular member as opposed to an alternate member, I'd be even more excited, but really excited to just get her into the pipeline and this important committee.
Other discussion? Councilor, was that a, no? I saw a hand.
Just affirmative.
Just, yeah. I will say, funny enough, this all came about because my cat got stuck in her tree. Isn't that so funny? Back in November, and she was like, "Oh, I should get involved." And I was like, "Well, I'd love. We got a bunch of openings." But yeah,
Amazing.
fun fact. So she's a good neighbor, good person. Excited to see her here tonight before us. If that means anything to those of us who are voting on this. But seeing no further discussion, if you're in favor of the nominee, you'll state by saying aye. If you're not, you'll state by saying nay. All in favor.
Aye.
All opposed. All right. Ayes have it. Our nominee is accepted. Under nominations, appointments, and elections, in accordance with Council Rule 17 appointments, the following nominees are being introduced this evening. We have Matt Kaiser for reappointment as a member of the Zoning Board of Adjustments for a term of 3 years. The nominee will stand in nomination until our next regularly scheduled council meeting. Brings us to item 13, which is items laid on the table. We have none. Brings us to item 14, which is considerations of ordinances and resolutions. Tonight, we have one on this agenda item. So the chair will recognize the clerk for a second reading on ordinance 7-26, which is to create ordinance chapter 35, schedule of fees. City clerk.
Ordinance number 726, to create ordinance chapter 35, schedule of fees.
Thank you. Ordinance 7-26, having read a first and now second time, is open to further amendment. No amendment being offered. Chair will look for a motion on ordinance 7-26. Councilor McNair.
Thank you for the sample. I move to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with the State of New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Agency.
I think you are on the wrong.
Oh, I am the wrong one.
Sorry.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, my God.
Ordinance 7-26.
Ordinance 7, whatever. Yes, let's do it. I motion for the adoption.
Okay, that was good.
I faked it. I got it wrong.
Totally
Got it
fine.
wrong.
Councilor McNair moves for the adoption of ordinance 7-26, seconded by Councilor Gibson. The motion before the council is on the adoption of ordinance 7-26. Discussion. Councilor Witham, then Barry.
I am actually pretty excited about the passage of this ordinance. Maybe not as excited as Councilor McNair, but I am excited about it. Placing all of our fees in one easy-to-locate spot, which will then allow for us to update them on an annual basis, is just smart governance, right? If I'm a developer, I don't have to go hunting around through the myriad of ordinances. I can look in one place. If I am a city official and I'm looking to update things, I'm looking in one place. Things don't get missed this way. I think this is a long time in coming, so I applaud city staff for identifying this improvement and moving it forward through the appropriate channels.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Barry?
I'm just going to say ditto because he hit everything I was going to say, so we're good.
I love it. Other discussion? Okay. Seeing none. If you're in favor of ordinance 7-26, you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Witham.
Yes.
Austin.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
McNair.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Parity Catanzaro.
Yes.
Michaud.
Yes.
All right. Ordinance 7-26 has been adopted. Thank you. All right, that brings us to agenda item 15, which is city manager items requiring action. Tonight we have one item requiring action. The council is being requested to provide authorization to accept the lead service line grant. What are the wishes of the council? Councilor McNair, do you want to do this one?
You know what?
You just had it before.
Okay, fine, I'll say it out loud. Again, the right time.
Just messing with you. But yes, who would like to make our motion? It doesn't have to be Councilor McNair unless she wants to. Councilor Gibson, you see a hand?
I move that the council authorize the city manager to proceed with the grant application.
Thank you. Second? Seconded by Councilor Cameron. We'll go Cameron. There were three over there, though. Motion for the...
Boy, it really excited him.
I know. This is great. Motion for the council is on whether to authorize the city manager to accept the lead service line grant. Discussion.
I thought I heard someone say a friendly amendment, so I don't want to
I'm
discuss
sorry.
it if
Did you
that
say
was the
that?
case.
I
Sorry.
thought you said
I
second.
heard the word application, and I was just going to say, like, this is an acceptance of the grant that we
is that all
already
right?
received, right? So just a clarification.
That, I appreciate that. I
But
missed
you-
that as well.
You did a period after a grant, which covered it, so.
Okay. That amenable
Yes.
to our second? Just want to make sure we're all in order. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Other discussion. Councilor Barry.
I'm going to say what I say almost every single time. Why wouldn't we take money, especially when we don't get money for other things we are required to do? So I think this is, again, a no-brainer. So
Appreciate that.
Ditto.
Councilor Gibson.
I like the way she said that.
Other discussion? Okay, seeing none. If you're in favor of the motion, you'll state by saying yes. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Parity Catanzaro.
Yes.
Michaud.
Yes.
Witham.
Yes.
Austin.
Yes.
Cameron. Yes. Barry.
yes.
McNair.
Yes.
All right. The city manager is now authorized to accept the grant. Brings us to item 16, which is items under other. We have none. Brings us to item 17, which is closing comments by visitors. Somersworth City Council and Mayor's Office welcome all visitors and encourage you to voice your opinions and views at council meetings in accordance with Council Rule 7-C. Time limit of 5 minutes per person shall be in effect unless the council wishes to suspend the rules. Speaker shall not enter into a debate with any person, the mayor, city council members, city manager, or department heads. Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening? Yeah, thank you. If you could state your name and the ward in which you live.
Ethan Clark, Ward 1. So on one of the comments that was made, I believe it was by Mayor Girding, kind of this pressure that, and I saw it last year when we were going through the budget season, there was very much this public pressure of we have to get the budget through, we have to pass it. We'd like to get it on and get it done with. I guess I'm a little hesitant with that type of language given the unique scenario we're in this year with that deficit. Main reason for that is because last year we reached the end of the school budget and they had over $350,000 at the end of the year. We've established that's not going to be there at the end of this year. We're all aware of that because of all the issues that we're having. But I guess as a resident, I'm just a little leery of why are we approving a budget before we have answers as to where they're going to be, I guess. Yes, you guys are going to budget it in, but why are we budgeting money before we even reach the end of the year? $350,000 if we had that, and obviously you guys can't manage the school board for how they manage their money, but literally school year was done, and that's how all these kids got iPads this year is because there were $350,000 at the end of the year. I was at that meeting. You can watch back the tape. We have $350,000. We need to find an idea of how to spend it. Got a new HVAC system, and all the kids got new technology. Would have been nice to have that. So I guess I'm just a little leery with why we have to rush the budget and get an approval through it when we don't even know where they're going to be at for the end of it. I know I can't have a conversation, but that just kind of stuck out for me tonight, and I would like to have a little bit more clarity of where we're going to be at. I've said it multiple times, we have an opportunity to be lower than our counterparts for the tax rate. This will be the first time in the modern era Somersworth has the opportunity to have a lower tax rate, and I think that would have an amazing effect on our housing economy and our economic development. But we start adding those points back on, that's going to have a negative effect on people to have the ability to buy a home and raise a family in Somersworth. Also, I've done a good amount of research, and I would love this board, if we are going to raise the tax rate, to start considering options for abatement, for more options for abatement for elderly residents or residents that do not utilize the school system or haven't in X amount of years. You guys have, as a council, have the ability to put those parameters into effect. So if somebody's had a kid outside the school system for 30 plus years, I'd say they've paid their debt to society when it comes to contributing to that. So I think if you guys are going to raise the tax rate on us, you should also give us an option to be able to offset that in some capacity. So as all these conversations come up, great, awesome, you want to raise taxes, give us an option to be able to do that, because you guys also have the authority to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Others wishing to make comment this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 18, which is counselors seeking to be recognized. Counselor Barry, you are up first this evening.
I just have two quick things. So I know next time we will have a reappointment for our zoning board. I just kind of want to put it out there. It came up in discussion across other nominations. I think I'm hoping to start hearing from some of the representatives of those boards. I know for last time I reached out to the board's members to make sure we're getting a sense of where we are at across our boards. So I'm just putting maybe that counselor on the spot saying I might be asking a question next time, because right, I think that's why we're on those boards, to understand everything around that. So I'll be looking for that. Also, I will just say, I know having the Coast representation today, I know we're coming into a very, very hard time, and I don't think anybody on this board takes this lightly about our budget and where things are going to fall. I think everybody's seen it across the state and across the country even, that things are going to be difficult no matter what we do. I will say that I think this board specifically tries to do what we can for our residents, especially those most in need, most at risk. And those are the things like where we might not use them all the time, but I want them there for when I need them. If I need to call the police, if I need to call the fire department, if my car breaks down and I need to use Coast Bus. Those are things that you don't think about until you're in the most devastating part of your life in most cases. So I think it is hard to start looking at the dollars and cents sometimes, that you can't give all of what they should get. But I know this board takes that very seriously, and I probably will have an ulcer by the time we get done with it. So I just want to put that out there.
You and me both. Counselor McNair, you're up.
We're going to need to fix this button. I may have already said too much. Kind of feel like I maybe did this time. That's okay. I'm new. It's fine. I'm going to lean on that a little bit. I just have a couple of things, and I really want to kind of piggyback off of what Councilor Barry was saying in terms of this. This will be my first budget, even though I feel like I've sat through a million of them, which I have sat through at least 10, to be fair, on the other side. And I will say that when we're having these considerations, and I want people to understand that, one, we are all here trying to do the right thing for our citizens, some of which are the most vulnerable. I don't use the school systems anymore, but I hope everybody else gets a great education. I also don't use the police or the ambulance pretty often. Thank you, fire department, for not having to show up. But that doesn't mean, as a society, we don't contribute to those things for the greater good. And I think we have to start having those conversations around the greater good. With that being said, we've got a bunch of people. We've got a bunch of housing coming in. That's going to mean a lot of people. That's going to mean more public services, more police, more fire, more education, more everything, which we don't get to, we're going to have to spend it before we get it. And that's something we have to think about. Those people are moving in and need those things right away, but we're not going to be budgeting for them until the following year. So that's another way we don't act like this isn't a business. There's a reason we're not a business. Now, I have prepared a couple of things, a little selfishly because of the chamber, but this actually does benefit everybody. I just want to say that we have a brief update. It seems like I've said this 1,000 times before, but 2026 is set to be a defining year for our chamber. When I joined a few years ago in August of 2023, we had a chamber without an identity. We set to asking who we were and who we're meant to be as our city grows and moves towards the future. This year, after some, if I might add, truly ambitious attempts, we finally have answered these questions. And you may recall that in 2025, we had a rebrand, intentionally adding the word community to our name and reaffirming our promise in the tagline where businesses and community connect. That was directional. Our logo features a bridge. We connect our businesses and our communities. But bridges, you must understand, do not stand on inspiration alone. They require structure and support to stand strong. As Somersworth grows, that bridge must be fortified. It must be strengthened. So that is why we are launching our 2026 Bridge Builders Leadership Circle, inviting 10 businesses to make annual leadership commitments to help stabilize and grow the Chamber's impact. And because growth also means investing in our next generation, we're excited to launch our very first Summer Workforce Fellowship. This is the one I'm the most excited about personally. It will be creating paid leadership opportunities for local high school students to gain real-world business and civic engagement experience through chamber programming and major events. In a time when many of our conversations focus on survival, we are choosing a path of stewardship, strengthening our bridge so it can carry an even greater growth forward. Speaking of connection, we have the annual Tri-Chamber Legislative Reception on March 30th. Most of you aren't going to be able to go, but I would like to, because we're going to be in budget conversations, but I would like to invite as many people from our public to attend. It's an opportunity to meet with our business leaders and our legislators about policy and the future of our communities. And that is all I have. Thank you very much for your continued support.
Thank you. Councilor Gibson?
Okay. I understand what's being said about abatements, okay? But one of the things that people seem to be forgetting, and especially at the state level nowadays, is there has always been a social contract, okay? That social contract, particularly when it came to education, was an agreement by the community at large that, yes, your kids might graduate, but it was part of your social responsibility to ensure that the same opportunities that your kids had were available to the future generations to come. And that's why we have an education system in this community, in this country, is the agreement on that social contract. That also applies to municipal services at large, whether it be police, fire, public works, the people who do all the foundational work at City Hall for us. We agreed that those are necessary services. And I do not want to expand that social contract because, no offense, public transportation was never a social contract in this country, no matter how you want to look at it. I know that's not a popular position, but we seriously have to consider the costs inherent in bringing other things into that sense of community responsibility because they feel good. And enough on that stuff. I do have to go national for just one thing. I've got to say this. The common denominator at our national scene now is cowardice. Cowardice of the people who are supposed to be representing us to speak out and put a stop to the dictatorial actions of the person who is supposed to be a democratic leader. That there are actually Republicans saying, oh, what's wrong with declaring war on Iraq? Well, excuse me, that's your job. It's not his job. And you can go through the whole laundry list, and it doesn't matter. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, they all have this serious thing of, it seems like once you get to the national level, you stop in at Walter Reed and have them surgically remove your backbone. The one thing I would hope for going forward is that at some point, the people who are supposed to be leading our country develop the ability to stand up and say, enough. Stop, because we're headed down a scary slope, and I do not want my kids and my grandkids in a country where one man can basically say, Constitution, that belongs in the bathroom with my other stuff that I stashed. So I'll shut up on that point.
Thank you. Councilor Brady Catanzaro.
Yeah, thank you. There is a lot happening. I think we would all agree, whether it's personal, in the news, on this council, the budget. I'll use this prop, Counselor, with them. I want to talk about recycling, and it's not the thing that you think. We're going to deal with that in a bit. But when I think about what's in our realm of control, as a nod to a previous comment, we should really have that one like bookmarked somewhere. When we're really focusing on what we can control, it's very, very helpful to find specific ideas and things that we can do in a very tangible way. But if folks remember that there were studies and information that came out that said that, you know, this whole recycling deal and getting people to focus on their one person action saving the planet turned out to be, they knew it wasn't going to make that big of an impact. And really, if you look at the system of who are the biggest polluters, you know, what's doing the most damage to the environment, you're getting people to put the problem on very small things. So I think that it's really, really helpful to look at systems. And that is why I'm very excited about the mayor's and the superintendent's commission. You said you wanted people to be excited. I'm very excited. This is one way I think that we can look at something from a systems level and really see, you know, this is the biggest part of our budget. What can we do that can transform what it costs, how we pay for it, how we deliver it. I think that's so necessary because it's just also the fastest and easiest way. Not easy, but it is a lot more effective than trying to figure out, who can be exempted on a personal level, which I actually think is a really good idea, or at least to spotlight what we have already in terms of people who need it, but really focusing on the systems of how do we right size things. I really appreciate the SmartGov stuff that was talked about and the schedule of fees. I mean, those two things alone, I think, for cutting down the cost and the red tape and everything involved in making very small changes, those are two very smart ways to update those systems. And I appreciate too that people are thinking about partnerships and how we can leverage all of these things together. I think we were talking about this in a rec meeting recently where a longtime resident was saying, oh, like if we want to build X, Y, and Z, like have we looked at the CTC's construction list of getting the students to build things? And I just really like that approach of what are we already doing somewhere that we can make a connection and really at this systemic level make an improvement. And the other really big systemic change, thinking of things that we are doing right, or at least on the right path, is this county-led shelter that we were talking about. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that that was a thing that we had many, many conversations about, and I'm really excited to see that that system is starting to go down a county track that we all thought it should. And then finally, it's similar to what Councillor McNair said, we're all in this together, and that sounds very trite, but we really are. And I think to align and say, the system, this budget is what we are all looking at, and it's outside of a person, a party, which board, which committee. We're all looking at this. We all want ourselves and everyone else to have lower costs if possible. We all want the services that we really, really need. So I welcome everyone's input, whether that is a small idea or a systemic idea, and just really appreciate how we are able to work together on that system. And finally, because I'm a word nerd, and I don't know, I haven't seen in writing yet what the full name of this, but the Educational Excellence Community Design Team. Educational Excellence Community Design Team is what I wrote down. And the first three of those words form the acronym EEK, which is very exciting noise. So just, that's all.
Too good. Unintentional. Thank you. Councilor Michoud.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say thank you to Public Works and their ongoing efforts throughout this long winter of continuing to keep our streets clean and clear of snow. I really appreciate it. And unfortunately, I think we might have a few more snow events before that ends. But thank guys that work for you, and I really appreciate everything guys are doing.
Thank you. Councilor Witham.
Me too. I appreciate Public Works. To that end, the Public Works and Environment Committee meeting is not this Thursday, it's next Thursday. It's March 12th, so I misspoke earlier. So please note that correction. On the topic of Public Works, a couple of things. It's a tough time of year to drive our roads. The frost heaves are numerous, and apparently it got warm enough Saturday that guess what has emerged? Potholes. And there are some man-eaters out there. I've reported them to Public Works, and I would hope that we can prioritize those maybe tomorrow. I don't know. But if not, the potholes will get filled by snow tomorrow night. So there's that approach, not one I would prescribe to. So anyways, just a note there. As we approach the Public Works and Environment Committee meeting next week, and the agenda item that I would like to see added there is I want to keep on our radar screen this conversation about the double utility poles. And again, what actions can we take as a city? They seem to be few. But one that I would like staff to at least contemplate and help me to better understand. Utility poles are taxed here in the city. There's a tax on the utility poles. Now, I don't know if that tax is on each individual utility pole or if it's a global tax, but if it's each individual utility pole, where there are double poles, there should be an additional tax. So if we can't get the poles out, we should at least get some money for them. So I don't know if that's a possibility, but I flag that as an idea because we're all in this together. And I won't sleep tonight, Councilor Parity Catanzaro, because I'm going to try to figure out how to make EEC work into an acronym for this committee, which I think is awesome. We're fortunate to have, I think, a very forward-leaning superintendent, outside-of-the-box thinker, who sees what's going on and isn't just digging his heels in and saying, oh, what are we going to do, right? He seems to be up to the challenge, and I think this committee is a great idea, and I think Councilor Austin Parity Catanzaro as the councilor appointments are perfect. So thank you for raising your hand and saying that you want to do that. So I think that's great. What else? I think that's all I'll do for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Austin?
Thank you. I do appreciate the appointment to that task force commission, whatever label we're going to put on that. I think that this is a clear example of an opportunity to rethink an entire process and stop trying to, think things are going to change when you don't change anything. I mean, that doesn't work, never has worked, never will work. So I'm looking forward to the work of this commission, and hopefully the recommendations that come out will, I hope will dramatically change the way educational services are delivered. But it's not just educational services, it's community services. It's how this will impact all of our students, all the staff, the community at large for possibly in perpetuity. So this is an opportunity that you don't get very often. And I hope that this can serve as an example of the way to look at other types of public services that are provided, and not just necessarily to accept the fact that because we always did it that way, we have to continue to do it that way. So thank you for that appointment. I did want to address the question on the timing of the budget approval process. Yes, it seems sometimes like it may be rushed, but part of the driver of this process is because of the requirements the school department has. They have to issue contracts to their staff. They have to do a lot of behind-the-scenes planning that if we didn't approve the budget until June 30th, which we could feasibly do, it makes all of our teachers, all of our administrators unable to know whether they're going to work next year or not because they don't have a contract. Those all have to happen, and the dates are, typically in April that those contracts have to be issued. So if they can't know what their funding is going to be, they can't issue those contracts, and it just makes a big mess out of everything. So that's one of the very important drivers of why the budget timetable is the way that it is. On that same theme, the mayor laid out the budget schedule for this spring. I urge everybody to pay attention to that schedule. And I hope that schedule is going to be posted publicly so that somebody can go and find it. There's a lot of dates in March there that we will be talking about budget in public workshops. So people have plenty of opportunity to come and participate in those workshops, or at least hear what's going on, and we'll hear our discussions about the various portions of the budget, so that by the time we get to that April 2nd meeting, or April, whatever that first date of the meeting is, we, as a council, may be prepared to approve the budget, and I wouldn't want to have a discussion with the public saying, well, we didn't have any opportunity to have any input in this. Well, this is your opportunity to have input. It's a similar model to what the school department went through when they developed their budget proposal to send to the city manager. They had a lot of open workshops, a lot of people had an opportunity to participate in those. Same process is happening here. So during March, watch for those budget workshops here at City Council and make your voice heard. We will make decisions based on what we perceive the needs are and the best balancing act we can come up with in terms of, what we can pay for versus what we need to provide. But it would be really helpful for all of the councilors here to know what the public wants in terms of, I know what I can afford to pay, and I know what I want for services, and if those two don't match, then what am I willing to give up in order to be able to pay for the services I can pay for? I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't have everything and pay nothing for it. Everything has a cost. So public input on that is critical if we're to design a budget that meets the needs of the public. So that's where I'll leave that for this evening.
Thank you. And last but not least, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm very excited about that commission that you have started. I think moving into the future with the way things are and have been going, that I hope there's some innovative ideas that will come out of this as far as education goes for the future. As we all can see, communities are struggling with this. And I guess the last thing I'll say about the budget that everybody's already talked about before is that, yes, the input is important, but I think people have to realize that it's very tedious on us as counselors to come up with a fair and equitable budget that the public will be happy with. Not everybody's going to be happy. We already know that. But if you get an opportunity to come out and speak, please do. Mr. Clark is here at every meeting. Thank you, Mr. Clark, because you always have something to say. And we always tell people to come out and speak, but they don't. So then you will end up with what we decide. So please let us know what your wishes are. It is going to be a very tough year, not just for us, but every community around us. If you paid attention to what Rochester and Dover are doing, they're far worse than we are. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. That brings us to our last agenda item, which is adjournment. Again, Councillor Vincent's still out. So who would like to make the motion? Ooh, we got Councillor Gibson. Go for it. Makes our motion to adjourn, seconded by Councillor McNair. Question for the council is adjournment. If you're in favor, please say by saying aye. If you're opposed, please say by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.